I've never dropped a game before. And I had an hour and a half to drive home after the tournament to consider. I never even thought about dropping a game before. You know what I mean? Like, it never even occurred to me. I had a big think. And I believe there's like a myriad of factors. But the main sort of one I want to focus on, I think, was definitely... I had a revelation. Like a genuine revelation. And so I think there's a very, very valuable, a genuinely valuable experience here for myself. I get it now. One of the issues that I've seen raised with 10th edition or with certain factions, and it's not well, with 40k in general, over several different editions, is when people are like, oh, well, if you own, people say, I would run this army, but if I run anything but X, I will just lose. And I should be able to run more than just X. I should be able to run X or Y or Z or combination of all. I used to, until literally this tournament, I somewhat disagreed with that. I always said, look, it's as long as you've got one viable build. As long as you've got one viable build, you're fine. I have now updated that stance and opinion. I think that armies only having one way to play, really bad. Now, what's interesting is it's not only bad. What I think is a bit of a hot take here is I actually think that it's somewhat bad for the person playing it, because they might get kind of bored of the same fucking playstyle in and out. But if it's a very powerful playstyle, then I actually think, let's say it's like War Dog Spam, for example, is a very, very powerful playstyle. I actually think War Dog Spam is more unpleasant for the person facing it than for the person that's using it. Now, that's a bit of a hot take, and I know that some people may disagree with that. I think if you're playing it, and if you've got a mono build and it's powerful and you're playing it, then yes, it can be somewhat boring, but that boredom, that sameness can be tempered by the fact that you're winning games. So you're like, yeah, fuck it, I'm using like 1 million War Dogs again, but I'm winning games. I'm winning games. So it's kind of, and the thrill of the win is still kind of like, is still there, right? If you're playing against it, I think something like War Dog Spam specifically it's kind of worse. You very well may find this easy to dismiss because I lost my games and my list wasn't built to play it. I fully accept that my judgment could be clouded with that. And I subconsciously, consciously, I fully accept that that's a valid thing, valid criticism to level at me here. But even if you beating it the first time is fine. Beating it a few times in a row is fine. But when every single time you play that faction, it's the only thing you face, then it starts, even whether you win or whether you lose, it actually becomes incredibly tedious to face. Super demoralizing is what people in chat are saying, and I agree with that. It feels bad when you can almost predict down to the model what someone's going to run in an army list for a certain faction. We were almost like that with orcs before their codex came out. With all this, you could predict Squidcog boys, knobs led by a war boss, all that kind of shit, right? It was almost that, and I'd never before ever thought I'd be bored, fucking bored of playing against orcs. But before that codex came out, I was fucking bored of playing codexes. Talzun, would you be saying the same thing if it was 3 hypocrite lists? So Talzun, I did say the same thing when I faced 3 Necron armies back to back. So remember when I took It's Vankin Time to a tournament? It was an RTT. It was a large 60-player RTT. And I faced Necrons 3 games in a row. And I think, you know what, Talzun, it's a really valid point. I'm glad that you raised it. Because I think my experience at that tournament influenced me subconsciously in this tournament. Because I remember how fucking like sad I was that I just played Necrons 3 games in a row. I played Hypercrypt. I don't think I played Canoptic Core, but even so, it was still like Catan. Like I played like 7 or 8 Catan over that weekend or something, over that day. Yeah, like fuck, man. And I think facing the same faction over and over again, and basically, almost being able to predict what's going to be in each list, at least like 50 to like 90% of what's going to be in that list is fucking. Now, I want to make something abundantly clear here, and I said this in the Discord. In fact, I may even read what I said in the Discord out, because it'll probably be more eloquent than me doing it on top of my head after streaming for 6 hours. So I don't want anyone to get the wrong end of the stick. I don't want anyone to think I'm shitting on Chaos Knights, or I'm not. So this is what I said in the Discord, because we had a bit of discussion on this in the Discord yesterday. I went, there should not be any hatred for any one faction. Every faction has suffered from being one-dimensional or mono-build at some time, even Imperial Guard. Right now, it's Chaos Knights who I think are suffering from it the most, and it's a shame because a lot of the models are gorgeous. And it's important to remember that this sentiment is actually shared by the Chaos Knight players themselves a lot of the time. I spoke to 2 guys running them, and both said they wish they could bring something different, or they wish they could bring the big tyrants out, but they both said sadly they just couldn't do it at a tournament because they are just so bad. And I know one player who is Chaos through and through has shelved his Chaos Knight and is trying other factions. He's so sick of spamming War Dogs. He played them a shitload in 9th as well. This guy is a genuinely hard tournament player, but even he has decided that playing with Chaos Knights is boring. I would rather lose the more interesting list than to win the boring one. Too long didn't read, don't hate the player, don't hate Chaos Knights, but it's okay to be frustrated with mono builds as a concept. And I think that's really the situation here. So if you're someone like Skunkzilla, who's in chat right now saying, damn, kind of sucks now. Made up my mind about a month ago to build some Chaos Knight lists after I bought some Huntsmen second hand. The plan was for 3 big knights and 4 Huntsmen. Probably shouldn't now. Skunkzilla, if you turn up with 3 big knights and 4 Huntsmen, you'll be a hero. Everyone will want to play you. That is a ton of fun. That is great. No one is hating on Chaos Knights. No one should hate on Chaos Knights. And no one should hate on any faction. It's not the faction which is the problem here. It's the concept of mono builds. There's examples going back for time immemorial, but it's the idea of there only being one way to run an army. Although there is only one way of running an army for it to be viable. Now, it's important also not to blow this out of proportion, because and there are it's like 1 or 2 factions. I think it's 1 or 2 factions that are suffering from this problem at the moment. I think Chaos Knights are probably suffering from it the most. If you want to win a tournament, you have to spam War Dogs. If you don't care about winning a tournament, you can take what you like, of course. This is very much a competitive 40k problem, I think. So yeah, I don't want I'm very conscious Skunkzilla might be feeling a bit bad now. You shouldn't feel bad at all, okay? I want to really make sure that's the case. There's loads of factions in 10th edition which are very, very popular, which play very differently. A good example of this, I saw 3 guard players at the event, including myself. That's about 10% of the players there running guard, roughly. I had pure infantry scions. One guy there was Gareth. There was probably more on this, but one guy there was Gareth, and he was running the Double Dawn list that you guys saw. And the third guy, I didn't get his name, but was running a Crassus. And then you had there was like 3 Tyranid players that I saw, and they had some shared elements, like they all had a few Zonothropes in there, but whilst 50% of the armies of each army was similar, 50% of the army, they put their own twist on it. And that's where I think that's a good example of where I think 40k should be. So yeah, so it's one of those things where there's not really a big point to what I'm saying. I think essentially, if I was to try and sum this up into one coherent thing, Don't hate, like I said, don't hate the player, don't hate the game. It's, but being frustrated with mono builds is fine. That's the first thing. There's nothing wrong with a faction being popular. There's also there's nothing inherently wrong with playing a faction multiple times at one event. Where things get frustrating is when you play the same faction multiple times at an event and the list is basically the same each time. That's where it is. Because when I played Necron 3 times, at least there was variety. It was frustrating playing Necrons, but it was more funny. You know what? It wasn't even frustrating. It was more funny than sad. Because the first game was like, actually thinking back, the first game was like 2 Catan and a bunch of like vehicles. That's cool. And a fucking Tesseract vault of all things. Crazy, right? Second game was like, I faced double Monolith. Third game, I faced the Nightbringer and the Void Dragon. So, yeah, whilst it was Necron 3 times, and it was funny, I was like, oh, Necron 3 times. Actually, all 3 lists were fairly interesting. So it was a little wearing, but tolerable. But then playing Chaos Knights and literally being like, okay, Game 4, I've just played 13 War Dogs. Game 5, I have to play 13 War Dogs. And I think Mad Larkins brought up a good point here as well. It's like when you play into Space Wolves, you knew it was going to be Wolf Jail every single time. And that was shit. Because you knew because it wasn't a case of, oh, Space Wolves, I might be able to beat them, I might not. It kind of depends on what happens in the game. It's, no, Wolf Jail is basically a stat check. I failed the stat check, I lost. So yeah, I'm gonna go. The real problem is most factions are all viable, so they don't disappear. I don't mind all factions being viable, but I think all factions should have more than one build. Maybe this is an issue as old as time. Maybe it's like complaining about Wave Serpent spam back in but there's definitely an answer, because you can look, because it doesn't affect every faction. Look at Imperial Guard. Every player runs different shit. Look at Tyranids. The lists have all at least got a Johnny Rambo twist on them. Look at Chaos Demons. Last time I played Chaos Demons at this event, I played against Blood Crushers. I played against Chaos Demons in the last time I faced them. I faced Monster Mash. I played against Demons the time before that. I played Mono Khorne. All like Bloodthirsters and Bloodletter spams. I played against Demons before that, and I played into, it was Mono Khorne, but like no Bloodletter. It was all just like big monsters and stuff. Okay, I play Demons all the fucking time, and yet I never know what I'm gonna face with them. It's different every single time. Sometimes it's multiple big monsters. Sometimes it's not as many big monsters. Sometimes there's fucking people riding around on fucking skull cannons and shit. Sometimes it's not. I'm trying to think of another example, but there's a few there just off the top of my head. You guys get it. Like, there's 3 factions right there where there's a bit of there's shared things in each list, but there's also enough wiggle room that people can bring the flavor and the variety. And I think, yeah. And I think Toad Rat Trenchcoat makes a good point. Chaos Knights only have a handful of data sheets. They only have a handful of data sheets. Well, they have a lot of data sheets, actually. They've got like 5 different kinds of War Dog. And then they've actually probably got more data sheets than fucking Votann. And it might sound crazy, I don't totally accept that as an excuse. I partially accept it as an excuse. Okay? Because the only War Dogs that people spam are brigands and carnivores. They are the only ones. No one's taking the stalkers unless they have to. So it's not. It's yeah. I think it's why people. If Al Coffin was here now, he'd be weighing in regarding Custodes, right? It's why like Custodes were boring as fuck for everyone involved, because it was just the same fucking list day in, day out. Skunkzilla, well, this is good to hear from me. It seems like I haven't unintentionally lead into the meta. The Skunkzilla, truthfully, mate, collect whatever the fuck you want. And also, truthfully, do not feel like you can't collect War Dog spam, and do not feel like you should be bad for collecting War Dog spam. No. When you go to a tournament, you put your best foot forward and you take what you want to take. It's just that simple. Okay, so I want to make something abundantly clear. I have no ill will towards any of the Chaos Knight players who spam War Dogs. None at all. Of course not. If they're going to a tournament, it's absolutely, they're trying to win it. They want to do their best. Fucking yeah, man. Of course. But on the other hand, I also hope those War Dogs don't have any ill will towards me, because I don't necessarily want to face that back to back. Even the Chaos Knight list that I spam, even the Chaos Knight list that I faced round 1 still had 7 of the fucking things. A 3-to-1 ratio on the big knights, more than. You know what I mean? So I would have faced 7 game 1, 12 game 2, and 13 game 3. 7 game 1, 12 game 4, 13 game 5. So that was 32 War Dogs. And then I faced Rotigus, who's basically a knight, and 2 big knights. So if I'd done that last game over the course of the weekend, I would have faced 35 knights, 35 knight models. That's what fucking killed it for me. So there you go. But this is definitely not, like I say, it's not a comment on Chaos Knights, because this could happen to any faction. It has happened. We mentioned Orcs earlier, right? We mentioned Orcs earlier. And they suffered from it for a time. Yeah. One of the things about GSC, man. GSC might be shit, but at least all of it's equally shit. So you can run whatever the fuck you want, because it's all shit. Orcs with 3 viral builds. 3 is great. 3 is great. Like, just 2 is great. Do you know what I mean? Like, 2 viral builds is great. It's just like 1. 1 and done is bad. Yeah. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.